G'day Hawks fans, welcome to Talking Hawks, the live stream on your Wednesday evening as we put the round 4 Easter Monday clash behind us and we look forward to gather round in South Australia. Of course, Talking Hawks, we are connecting Hawthorn fans from all around the globe, not just to each other, but to the club. Can't do the live stream on my own, and I've got the best man in the business as well, and a man who was at the G on Monday. Mitch, mate, it's a bit of a somber evening at the moment, but we do have to put it behind us eventually. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. Good to be here tonight and with all the Hawks fans. So jump in the comments. Let us know your thoughts on what was unfortunately a pretty last half on Monday, and then we'll get into gather round, which hopefully can look forward with a bit more optimism, Daz. But yeah, as you mentioned, probably not the place to be after half time if you're a Hawthorn supporter, but that's going to happen. We'll move on and we'll hopefully look for a better result this week.
Mate, absolutely. It's a tale of two halves, and I think Jay summed it up here pretty well. Folded up like a deck chair in winter. Not great to play any reigning premier back into form, let alone the boys down the highway. My goodness, we lost Essendon, lost to Geelong, and lost to Sydney. So there you go. There's the three big ones off the bat, of course. But
yeah,
I do think of my brother in these times, who turned to the guy next to him apparently before the game started, as he noted the only Hawthorn fan within a few rows, and said he's deep into enemy territory here. And about halfway through that first quarter, the bloke then turned around to him and said, "And you're in trouble." So unfortunately, he did make it out alive, and by unfortunate I mean because of the result, not of anything like that. Getting around us as well. The only highlight was the noodle sign, which I'm really disappointed in what that noodle sign meant, mate. I don't know if you caught up with what Sam Mitchell said on AFL 360 afterwards, but he noted that it was just describing a strategy and a piece of play.
correct.
Which is really disappointing. I thought it would be something a lot more intricate than that.
Talking Hawks alumni Matty pointed out to me at the game. That's who I was at the game with, and he said, "What's that sign?" He pointed it out to me and Chris, and I was like, "Maybe it's to swap Noodle and Meek." Couldn't have been further from. Apparently, it was something to do with the wet weather, and that it was played fast footy or something because of the wet weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Not happy with the with the signs, Chris. we had last year. We had the jukebox with Sunnies or something like that. We need a dim sim sign, apparently, according to Tom, but my goodness. But look, we could spend the next 40 minutes going through every single bad thing, mate. And there are some things that we need to talk about, of course, like Jim's sentiment there. We need to develop more signs. I like that. That's a little bit of sarcasm that'll get you through any kind of meek week, mate. But we'll talk about, first of all, look, you were at the game, so it's going to be easier for you than me, but I like Jason's sentiment here, boys against men. What was it like for you in that third quarter where we just not only started slowly, but we couldn't wrestle momentum back?
Yeah, exactly. I do like that comment, boys against men, because when they clearly went to another level, and obviously they're a good side. They were 0-3 going into the game, but they are last year's premiers, so that wasn't an accurate reflection of the side that we played, and they certainly showed us that in the last half. It just looked like we didn't have an answer for them. We went from being, working our butts off to be 10 points up in a first half that we should have been a lot further up. We missed a few easy chances in front of goal that you should kick, and probably actually missed a few opportunities to score altogether. And when you're going in with I think it was a 11 or 12 point lead at half time, when you've by and large won most parts of that first half, and within 10 minutes into the third quarter, all of a sudden you're 6 goals down, playing the reigning premiers. All of a sudden, I think the boys just got a bit shell-shocked, and even Sam Mitchell commented on afterwards that even he just didn't really know what to do. And I think that this is where we need the leadership team to stand up and have someone just try and stem the flow a bit. And I just didn't see really anyone on the ground that was willing to sort of put their hand up and go, okay, I'm going to try and stop this onslaught. Yes, they tried, but there wasn't really any one player that stood up and just tried to stem the flow, because all we needed was to stop the run of goals, kick 2 or 3 of our own, and just stop the bleeding a bit, and all of a sudden we're back in the game. But when you concede 10 goals in a row, it's obviously the game's over pretty quickly, and all of a sudden they were 50 points up.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think the recognised tall forward is bigger than we give it credit for, of course. We know that it was a game of two halves in a lot of things. We still won the clearances on the day, but geez, the inside 50 count is just killing us in big spots as well. I think, I kind of went on a tirade on Twitter as it was happening, as we all can do, mate. It's one of the benefits of going to the footy. You're probably reacting live rather than on your phone. But I'll just answer this question first, Dan. We do have a spot for the mid-season draft. If so, do we have any idea what we may or should do? Not as of yet. We are not even close to getting into big samples of players to look out for. The only player that really looks like they're definitely going to get picked up, Sam Naismith, and we don't need another ruckman. But, I mean, it's hard for me here in this Tyro because I feel like it's one thing or another thing or another thing or another thing. I think it's the little things that are getting spotlighted the most, whereas the underlying message is, and it's already been spoken about, this is an incredibly inexperienced side who couldn't wrestle momentum back. Our average games played was 74. Geelong's was 152. The 0-3 is a slow start. This was a reigning premier who's old, and let's be honest, they don't need to start winning basically until now, and they'll be fine. But I love the fact that Hawthorn fans can still be emotional about this. We all care, which we love. But I feel like the nitpicky of players, whatever it might be, wouldn't be highlighted in the first half. So Josh Ward's the one that I'm thinking of the most.
Yeah.
Josh Ward got run down twice holding the ball in the second quarter. No one cared. It happened twice in the third quarter when the game was lost, and everyone started caring. Are we struggling for a balance, do you think?
Yeah, it's a good point, Daz, and probably, obviously by nature we're going to focus on the negatives when we're losing, and vice versa, we're going to focus on the positives when we're winning. But there probably is a balance that we need to find, like somewhere in the middle there, that, okay, let's not focus on the little things. And, you alluded to potentially looking at maybe a bigger problem, and the guys touched on this in the review in the podcast with no key forward. How much of an impact is that having?
Yeah, I like it. Morris will be our best defender by year's end. Bookmark it. Okay, I haven't seen Josh Morris defend that much, but I like the idea. Blake Hardwick had a couple of absolute that's what's so weird, mate, is I feel like when we had momentum in the first half, it doesn't feel like we're getting beaten. It feels like we're beating ourselves, which is why things like throwing the magnets around and we need to get 4 players from Box Hill and figure out what this magic combination is. You think of things like CJ running out of full back and getting pinged for too far. Yeah. Blake Hardwick fumbled the ball that well. He didn't fumble it over the goal line, and he should have got, he should have been penalised with that goal. Yeah, statistically things aren't going our way, which is what it is. But there are just mind-numbing moments where the blokes in brown and gold with the footy in hand that just make you go, pull your hair out. And that's where I think a lot of our frustration's coming from.
Yeah, it's a good point. The thing that I was sort of focusing on being at the game was when Brocky missed from pretty much the top of the square. And again, very similar thing. You go, everyone's building, and we were around quite a few Hawk supporters, and everyone's building, and then it's, and there was a couple of moments that you've already touched on that was like that. And I mean, is that just what we have to tolerate when we've got a young side? They are going to make mistakes. They're going to turn the ball over in poor spots. Yes, you don't just give it as a cop-out for them, but it's probably going to be a feature of the Hawk side for this year and next year that we are going to make some ordinary mistakes. But I think the biggest thing is if they're learning from them, we're getting better slowly, then we can probably forgive them on a week-to-week basis a little bit more, providing that we are improving.
I can see just a little bit of spot fires going on in the comment section, guys. It's all right. We're all here to give our opinions. I apologise, Steph. I think I've ignored you like 3 times as I'm trying to filter through all the comments here. Love this. CJ, and I saw it on the mongrel punt, and I agree. CJ needs to be our Michael Frederick, in my opinion. If you've seen him for the Dockers, forward half player, scares the absolute bejesus out of every defender because you can't catch him. I would love to see CJ do that role. So, Steph, I apologise for ignoring you, but I've gotten you there. But again, I do worry about Finn when he's not tagging. But again, is it the biggest problem? No. Is it still a problem? Potentially. Someone brought it up before that the VFL side is absolutely flying. That is certainly true. We spoke about it, mate, given how good our draft was and our drafts have been over the last 2 years. Box Hill were going to absolutely take the mickey. They did in the curtain raiser. Sam Butler, Ned Long, and Max Lynch, the three that probably stood out for mine. Sam Butler just seems like the kind of guy that would thrive on Easter Monday, and I hope he can get into the side. Your thoughts on Sammy B?
Yeah, he had a great game. I didn't quite catch the Box Hill game. I had some other commitments in the morning and couldn't get into the G early enough. But Matt and Chris both, the first thing they said to me when I got there was how good Butler was. He kicked 4 goals. I wouldn't think he's too far away from getting another spot in the senior side, and it probably will be this week, I would think. Great game. And you mentioned Lynch as well. He could be another one that we could potentially be looking at throwing in this week for potentially Ned Reeves.
Yeah, I think so. And look, Noodle, Young, Ruckman, they take time. Okay, I know Hawks fans think that we don't have time. And Steph, by the way, I probably owe you 20 for just putting that in there, so I appreciate that. But the thing that worries me about Noodle is, and I'm not here to look at the 5th or 6th or 7th best Ruckman in the league. Like all Hawks fans, we want to be the best. Yep. Now, regardless of his injury history, the best ruckman in the game right now who's not injured is Tim English, who kicked 2 goals on the weekend, who provides the option down the ground and does these things. Noodle's not doing that at the moment, which is why I'm a big advocate for Max Lynch to come in, because what he did in the Box Hill game that Noodle's not doing at the moment is the ruck work almost doesn't matter. Okay, it matters. It doesn't matter as much as we think it does. You know, you look at Collingwood, okay, they don't have a recognised ruckman. Collingwood still won the clearances. You know, Ned Reeves, okay, him and Lloyd Meek did a serviceable job in the middle, and we won the clearances. We lost by 14 goals. Yep. What English, Sean Darcy does it, we know Max Gawn does it, and we're not suggesting these guys need to be at that level, but if we're providing options down the ground without a recognised tall forward, we are going to need tools in situations, which is why, contrary to, I think, a lot of Hawks fans, I love Lloyd Meek. Now, he's not going to be a top 5 ruckman in the league, but if you can get 2 guys in, say, the top 12, I think that holds us in good stead, and why I'd have Max Lynch in over Noodle at the moment.
Yeah, I'm with you, mate. It's hard to argue. I actually agree. I haven't minded Meek's year. I thought he was okay on the weekend. And you're right, he just does provide a little bit something else aside from the ruck craft. Obviously, as you mentioned, yes, it's important, but not absolutely essential to win the clearance battle, to win the game through the centre of the ground or even at the stoppage. But you do need to be able to present some other things. And as you touched on, the modern ruckman is doing that, and probably haven't quite seen that from our 2 boys yet. Obviously, more so Meek that we've seen it from.
Yeah, and I'm with you, Riley, counting down until Mitch Lewis is back. Absolutely is. And you think of all the other struggling teams sort of in the competition or you know, down near the bottom, you take their full forward out and they would be in a world of hurt. Look at West Coast. They've nearly had everyone but their full forward get injured at this point in time, and they're struggling as well. But we are going to give this about another 6.5 minutes, around the 20-minute mark, mate, when I'm on the live streams. I like to wipe my hands of the loss, right? For every bad game, we're going to have a good game. Now, I'm with you, Hawks fans. This was unacceptable. I'm with you. For the gluttony of reasons that we're putting forward, this was unacceptable. However, carrying this with us the entire time is not going to be healthy at all. GWS are an opponent right now that played some really good footy in round 1, struggled in round 2 with the Heat, lost in round 3, and then lost to Essendon, as we did. We genuinely have a 50-50 game coming up, and the quicker we can all move past it and gather around the Hawks, the better that we are going to be. You were at the game, mate. Just give me a positive, a player, a moment. What was something that stood out for you that we can hang our hat on a little bit as we keep scrolling through the comments? What was something good that you saw at the ground on field?
Yeah, well, Will Day obviously is probably the easy answer that I think everyone will go to, and he's been great through the middle of the ground, and this week was no exception. I believe he got the nod in Smithy's player review as another best on ground, and he's obviously one that everyone talks about. But one thing I did say to Matt and Chris in that first half was I did actually like seeing our pressure, and it wasn't easy for Geelong to move the ball during that first half. Yes, things changed dramatically in that second half when they moved the ball at will. However, coming out of our defensive 50, We made it hard for them to move the ball. We put pressure on them. There was good pressure from our forwards when they're trying to come out of our forward 50. And I kept saying to Matt, this is much better. The pressure's there. And then obviously we know what happened in the last half. But if you look at the game, obviously the first 2 quarters in isolation, there was a lot to like there. Yes, a game is 4 quarters, and you can't just go, oh, well, we're going to just focus on the first half. But at the same time, there's plenty of people sort of going to the negative and only looking at that last half and how bad that was. There was definitely a lot of positives in that first half. Obviously, it just gets wiped away when they kicked the last 15 goals of the game or whatever it was.
Yeah, I'm with you. Totally. Some Mitch Lewis doubt in the comments here, which I have no idea why. In the last 12 games of last year, only 2 more players averaged more goals per game than him, that being Darcy Fogarty and Jeremy Cameron. For the entire season last year, of all players that played over 15 games, only Charlie Curnow, who won the Coleman medal, averaged more goals than him. Is Mitch Lewis not playing, making us forget how good he is? I'm very confused.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's tough when we're potting him and he hasn't played a game this year yet. Let's just let him get back.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you. Max Lynch.
Back into the side. Let's hopefully, I believe, judging by the Hawks injury report, they're expecting round 7. Round 6 is probably a little bit optimistic, so they're expecting round 7 that'll be available. But let's just get him back in the side first, and then I'm all for criticism if and when that's needed. But let's get him back in the side first.
Yep, I like it. Ned Long coming into the side, I'm totally on board with, and we are going to appeal the Will Day tackle. Now, I think that 2 weeks will become 1. I struggle to see how Will Day plays next week, given that he pinned both the arms. It was driving forward with momentum, and Brad Close didn't have a chance to break his fall. Regardless of what you think of the rule, criticising the rule is fine, but the rule is the rule, and by the letter of the law, sorry Hawks fans, Will Day can't play next week, in my opinion. Now, if he does, I'll be happy as a Hawks fan, but I think we have to accept that he's not going to play this week, and Ned Long is the obvious replacement. Personally, I think Ned Long plays anyway, mate. I think Finn would drop out. Yes, yep. Josh Kelly has started really well for the Giants, but I think head-to-head against their midfield and seeing what we can do, we're going to learn a lot more than potentially shutting one of their players down. Your thoughts?
Yeah, completely agree, mate. And like you said, the Will Day tackle wasn't... it's certainly worthy of a week. When, obviously, as most people were, when he got 2 over Gary Rowan as well, it was like, well, why are they different? And I agree with trying to get rid of the action. They didn't sling him around his body or anything like the Rowan tackle, so I think 2 weeks was a bit harsh, but I do agree that he'll get 1, and then the obvious replacement in Long, I think, and he's been playing well. Had a good game on the weekend.
Unfortunately for the tribunal, first offence for Will Day doesn't mean squat anymore, Daryl. Normally I'd be with you, and this guilty early plea doesn't matter either, considering that if you go to the tribunal and you appeal, you don't get further punished, which makes you wonder, why doesn't everyone appeal everything if there's no downside? I think it might be something like a $10,000 fine, but I mean, come on, these are multi-million-dollar businesses. They're not going to lose a whole lot out of it, if we're being honest. Yeah, Cooper Stevens is a weird one for me, mate. There are some people that sing his praises. There are some people that think he's not quite ready yet. Interesting to see how he goes. Sam Mitchell will know more about it than we will, but going a bit harsh on Finn here, guys, but we've only got a couple of minutes left before we are going to move on from this and talk about the Giants. Steph, I agree, not a 50-50 game if there's no Will Day. I largely agree with you. However, the positive out of it is Jai is actually going to be a midfielder. I think his CBAs in the second quarter were quite low. They did go higher in the third quarter, of course, that nightmare of a third quarter, but there's a scary early Darcy Parish about Jai's role at the moment, mate. Every time he's on the field and not at the centre bounce, I get nervous because he is, I think, our best contested midfielder.
Yeah, absolutely. He did spend a little bit of time forward as well, I think, on Monday. I'm forgetting when we played. Yeah, I've lost my train of thought now, but we'll I think we're probably ready to wrap up the Hawks Geelong game now, Daz, and we'll look ahead to the Giants in what hopefully can be a better result, if not a win, at least a bit more of a competitive game for us.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed. And I saw someone say, do we go after a Harry Himmelberg or a Mason Redman or anything like that at all? I think if we do that, it kind of makes the Mitchell and O'Meara moves seemingly pointless. But attacking the draft before Tasmania become an AFL team is definitely going to be the strategy. We're going to get through first-round picks with Will McCabe coming in anyway, so that settles that. Let's get to the Giants. Don't know how much of the Essendon game you caught, mate, but when Nick Haynes is having 26 disposal and taking 18 marks in a team that didn't win the inside 50 count, probably tells you that pressure in the front half is going to be a priority.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Didn't catch any of the game visually, but was listening to it on the radio. Yeah, obviously, when you're listening to it, you don't get a great feel for how the game's being played. But, yeah, it's certainly going to be a focal point for the Hawks this week and something we need to improve on because it hasn't been our strength this year, Dad.
No, it definitely hasn't, mate. But, guys like Tyler Brockman, and we've spoken about Sam Butler and yada, yada, yada. We are kicking off in the comment. I haven't seen a comment section like this before. How did we find Connor Nash's game? Last thing that we want to touch on, mate. 196 centimetres is good if it's going to good use. I really like the way he played danger in that first half, but it looked like matchups kind of went out the window in the second half and we got caught out a little bit. Do you think Nashy's best 22?
I think he's on the fringe. I'm not prepared to say that he is absolutely. I'm going to sit on the fence here and say that, no, not
on
absolutely. But he's one that I constantly have in and out of my side. Probably going to want to see a little bit more from him. He's just the type of player that obviously when he's going well, everyone loves him, but when he's not, he can seem to be people that hyper focus on a little bit. I'm going to sit on the fence there, Daz.
Yep, I like it. Splinter style. Matt's rubbing off on you beautifully, mate. I'm with Riley here. Essendon kicking 11-22. I think Jake Stringer kicked 4 goals, 6. And he really could have, taken the game right away from the Giants. So I'm under no illusion that GWS are a much, much better side than we are. Their spine looks okay, but, if they're not, Toby Green and Jesse Hogan is their entire forward line at the moment. They're not playing Aaron Cadman for reasons that are really good for us. Number 1 pick, and you're not playing him when he's fit. That's interesting. But yeah, I agree with this a little bit. Giants have 3 or 4 top liners, then fall away. I agree. I think they are very top heavy, and it could be good for us if we do want to go down the GWS trade or free agency path again. But yeah, mate, I think Josh Kelly, Tom Green, Sam Taylor really stand out. Of course, Toby Green, who got blanketed by Nick Newman a couple of weeks ago. Do you think that might be a role for maybe a Blake Hardwick or someone like that?
Yeah, potentially. The obvious matchup for Hardwick is probably Toby Green. I would have thought I did see something in the comments before. But yeah, potentially. I actually haven't seen a lot of the Giants footy this year, so I'm not going to try and pretend like I know what we're going to do to beat them, but or at least matchups-wise anyway. Fred coming in saying Hawks have no top liners.
That's a bit
I don't
harsh.
know if we don't have any. There's probably not too many, but I wouldn't say we have none. Tom Green is going well. I had a look at his stats. He's getting plenty of the footy, mate. 33, 27, 34 and 34 disposals, I think, for his 4 games this year.
Not a lot of kicks in there, but apparently the only bloke you can criticise for not kicking the footy is Tom Mitchell, so I shouldn't have even brought that up, so I apologise. Yeah, because whenever everyone else handballs the footy, that's absolutely fine, but Tom Mitchell does it, and apparently he's not damaging at all. But I feel like Tom Green got stitched up from us, mate. He's the exact clone of Xavier Ellis, and I think father-son should have gone our way there. We've been stitched up twice. Seriously, go have a look at Tom Green. It's freakish how much he looks like X. Wingard out for Adelaide. Please make a statement. Brocky in. Well, Brocky's in. He was best 22, so unless he gets dropped, which I don't think he will be, I think he'll be fine.
I think he was subbed off for Wingard.
Is that weird for you?
Yeah, we were actually trying to work it out during the game. We're all looking at the 3 of us looking at each other going, has something happened? I'm not too sure. There hasn't been anything come out in an injury report or anything, so don't know, maybe just weren't getting what they wanted out of him. Obviously, similar players with Wingard coming in, but I haven't seen anything that would sort of suggest that he's not playing this week. So
there we go. Mark here. Club stated they envision Wingard having a full game this weekend. I just find it... I know the tactical sub, you could argue, Daz, this falls apart. Geelong had Ollie Henry. I have no idea why small forwards are subs. It makes very little sense to me. At the moment, he was subbed off. Shocking kick 3 a week before. Well, week before doesn't mean a whole lot. He was very quiet in the game, but I thought we might have taken off at all. But that's okay. Weddle must play. Ooh, he was not the sub. What am I talking about? He was an emergency.
Yeah, well, I think he got ruled out as a fitness thing, didn't he? Because
I think so.
He's got to pass a test for this week, so he may not get a gig this week, but he'll potentially be in the mix the following. But I know he does have to pass a test this week.
Yeah, I think so. And I'm just going to put this plainly out there. That's ridiculous, Tom. Come on. My goodness. Weddle rolled his ankle. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate that. Con got in there as well. Weddle rolled his ankle. He should be fine then. And another athletic freak, which would be good. Best. Okay. So, geez, these are coming in very quickly. So I'm trying to. I'm usually a fast reader. Holy moly. Cam McKenzie needs more CBA. Why experiment with him when we know he's a gun mid? It's a very good question, Steph. I don't have an answer for you. I think Cam McKenzie's very low on my list of problems. I agree. Maybe some more centre bounce attendances would be good. And against the GWS midfield of, we think, Kelly, Canelio, and Tom Green, I feel like he's one of those players, mate. If we're not giving him CBAs, is it worth just having him at Box Hill? Not for form, because he's been very good, and he's our best kick inside 50. Why he's better at moving targets than he is with goalposts, I've got no idea.
Yeah, potentially, but I mean, I think he's been playing well enough. He's been in, like, certainly not anyone that I'm looking at every week going, I'm a bit worried about him. So potentially, but I think if he's playing well, you've got to reward him regardless of the roles. You can sort of switch it around a little bit. I don't think, CBA is a key barometer for his game, like, in terms of like judging his performance. Anyway.
Okay, I like it. A lot of Cam Mack either in the guts or Box Hill talk here as well. What have you seen? We knew he was under pressure coming into the season. What have you thought of Jimmy Warple's year so far, mate?
I thought he's been good. I think he's been back to form and probably someone, again, that the Hawks fans like to go after a little bit when he's struggling. He's generally the first one to sort of zero in on. But I think the response that he's had coming back from the shoulder injury, and then obviously we know that he was down on form considerably, I think he's been okay.
Yeah, I like it. I do wonder if it's been enough, but the kicking, I think quality of clearances is more important than kicking efficiency almost. I feel like, and this is going to sound strange, not every clearance you're going to lay someone out. What I'm starting to get a little frustrated with, and believe me, it is not just Hawthorn that do this, is the trying to be too cute centre forward. And I think it's because we have no one to kick to at the top of the square. But, I mean, I'd much rather sit it on someone's head out of the middle in a 6v6 and let Bruce, Brockman, Butler, if he's playing wingguard, yada, 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 whoever it may be. I'd much rather them create the contest on the ground rather than trying to hit up at a ball carrier, especially considering Jai, who, on his day is a very good kick of the footy, but consistently might not have it yet. And Warple, as we know, unless it's the one where he pushed off Nat Fyfe a few years ago at Tassie, might not be the guy who's hitting blokes straight out. I think chaos balls inside 50 might actually work to our advantage, and it kind of worked against North.
Yeah, mate, I agree wholeheartedly. The chaos ball is something that obviously works for quite a few sides, and it's much more common these days. Obviously, Richmond probably were the one to really get it going, and we know Collingwood play a similar style of footy now. They're just about the form side of the comp. So I don't mind that game plan, especially when we don't have that recognised key forward. Okay, let's just get it forward, get it in there, try and lock it in there and create some repeat entries and a few shots at goal instead of, just sort of bombing it on their head.
Yeah, I like it. I like this. Need to sign Fergus Grant. I mean, speaking of positives, the Ferg, geez, we got more problems than him. I don't want to say star, but his footy IQ at the moment, mate, stands out forward to centre.
Absolutely. He just attacks the contest as well, doesn't he? He's not the biggest bloke, but he just runs full steam ahead, goes at it, attacks the ball good. I actually said numerous times throughout the game to both Matt and Chris that how much I loved him. So it's good to see he hasn't been a problem for me at all.
Well, we've talked in the past about how giving Dimmer Hodges 15 worked, the tough defender, giving Scrimshaw Birchall's 14 works, Brockman having 33, another small forward pocket. It feels really weird to have 26. I mean, Liam Shields was a very, very good player at Hawthorn. I'm not taking that away from him for a moment. My God, it was weird. It's weird watching 26 lead up at the ball carrier inside 50. It takes a little while to adjust, I think. But I agree with this. Oh no.
Berg will be a big winner. Yeah, I do. I'm glad you pointed that out, Daz, because I was going to roll with that as well. Yeah, I do agree. Ferg will benefit a lot from when Lewis comes in. Lewis obviously then gets the best defender. Ferg can become a little bit more of a target then, which is good.
Yeah, I know I've been to nearly every eye specialist in Victoria, mate. I think Josh Ward might need to get a referral for me. He does everything. 9 out of 10 things he does well, Joshy Ward. His game awareness and the peripheral vision might be a little bit of a down spot for the young man. But it does bring up the question, though, is the leadership and the talk out on the ground, is it sufficient enough? Or is Josh Ward blind? Now, out of those two things, I kind of lean towards the leadership and the talk not being what it needs to be. And I think that's a greater concern maybe than on-field performance at this stage, because even the Hawthorn teams of, like we say, 04, 5, 6, when we were not that good, we still had outstanding leaders. Croft, Hodgie was coming through, Sam Mitchell was coming through, as we know. I actually think we're in more of a leadership hole at this point while leaders develop. At the same time, we've got youngsters developing, and that's what's going to take some time. Your thoughts?
Completely agree, mate. And again, I think touched on before in the Geelong game that just, again, on field, you just got a little bit of that lack of leadership. Obviously, we got Sicily and Bruce in 2 senior players there, but after that, even if you look at the leadership group, Dylan Moore, Frost, and Impey, I think it is. Obviously, Mitchell Lewis not playing at the moment. Mm-hmm. Good players in their own right, but in terms of having that really solid game experience, veteran sort of heads, it's not really the same thing as what you mentioned before in some previous teams. And I do think it is a bit of a gap. I think Ward was ran down 2 or 3 times on separate occasions, was it, Daz? So you would think, okay, maybe once or twice his peripheral vision's a little bit skewed, but the communication on field probably is something that we need to highlight as well. And it's something that you learn in junior footy, mate, is talk, be loud on the ground. And, we're big cricket fans, and they say the same thing in cricket, mate. You've got to be loud, be vocal.
Yeah, now, normally we like to dissect questions, problems, and issues, but let's nip this one in the bud straight away. No. There we go. Moving on.
Maybe as a coach, because he's going to get into coaching, I think, but yeah, not as a player.
Yeah, I think so. This is another thing that I wanted to bring up. So, Sean, you're a star for bringing this up as well, and I'm not picking on Chad here. Now, as an NBA fan, as a basketball fan, I love sporting body language.
Yep.
And I think that is something that is a concern, because when things go wrong, as they will with a side that is basically having everything from players to leaders to coaching staff all developing at the same time and will all rise together, and as we know, they'll have their dips and their troughs. But there are some moments where I'm thinking to myself, once the rot sets in, it sets in real bad. Was it noticeable at the ground, things like body language and the level of talk?
Yeah, well, my first thought is that I didn't notice it, so potentially not. But at the same time, I will say that because of the way the game played out, it happened so quickly. And the last half is honestly a blur, mate, especially the last quarter, I think, because we sort of started to tune out by then. But it just happened so quickly, mate. I don't know what it was like for the young kids on the ground, honestly.
Tom, mate, Joel Selwood went at the next pick. Let's not go down the gluttony of draft mistakes. We've had more hits than misses. All right, so let's just realise that. Max Lynch is
sorry, Daz.
Go on.
I will say, from Wingard's perspective, I do agree that he would probably need to be a little bit more positive. He is a senior player, and I have seen it from him in his game as a whole. He can get a little bit negative, and we often see him shouting on the ground. And whilst there is time for that, I do agree that when you've got a young developing group, you do need to be more positive than negative. You see how that's working with Clarko at North.
Yep, I like it. Look, I'm pretty happy with Cam McKenzie at the moment. Ruben Jinby, of course, was the rising star of round 3, I think. Might be leading the competition in tackles, but his ball use isn't suggesting anything other than that tough in and under. So we'll see. Be good to monitor them. But at the moment, at this point in time, I'm pretty happy with Cam McKenzie at the moment. There we go. Brooke, so body language being brought up as well. I mean, let's bring this up. Not just, and I'm not suggesting this at all, but the thing with language, mate, and we're seeing it with clubs as well. The reason why I love doing this this live stream and the fact that we are so passionate. I am just really happy at this point in time that we are doing the right thing mostly. So if you are going to the footy, I understand, that we're all pretty upset with that third quarter. We know what's happening in other clubs with people going over the line. As Hawks fans, let's make sure that we're keeping it as football relevant as we can, so everyone can go to the footy and have a fantastic time. Fred, as much as I agree with you, and I would have said last year as well, we're not going to get a whole lot for him. So trade bait, you're probably getting a third.
You can't get rid of everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Daryl, half right, the compensation pick that Richmond got for Vickery going. So we didn't give up a pick for Vickery, but yes, they did use it on Shea Bolton. And let's just leave it at that, shall we? What do you think? What do you think of this, mate? We know we moved on two midfielders in a prime age. Harry Himmelberg at the end of the year, I think, is going to be 26. Is free agency and trade, would that work for talls rather than smalls, do you think?
Yeah, well, it's obviously a bit of a hole in our list, isn't it, really? Like, we're looking for key position players, and it's obviously, something that we need to look at. So, okay, we've made it clear that we're prioritising going to the draft and seeking youth. But if you can get players in, you can't have a team that's way too young with virtually no experience. You need some experience in there. I don't mind it. Had a good game last week.
Yeah, I agree. There's just something about Mitch Georgiades that I love as well, and considering the money that we've got, he's young, age profile, tech, and I don't know
who beat you to that tonight, but I did see that in the comments earlier. So
you did? Okay. I'm not claiming it's an original one.
It was like real early. So whoever that was, shout out. If you're still here, shout out.
Yeah, I like it. Well, the problem is, though, is that young forwards, I mean, hello, Logan McDonald, if Sydney think Bud's the answer at 35, might be someone to look at. I loved him in his draft year, Logan McDonald. Carl Amon hasn't put a foot wrong either since arriving. What have you thought of the new recruit from Port?
I asked this to Matty and Chris at 3/4 time, I think, and we all sort of settled on par, where he hasn't quite exceeded expectations yet. However, I'm probably being unfair to him if I'm going to start potting him. I think he's done just enough, and he was good in patches. He was good on the weekend. The team wasn't good on the weekend. I was in that last half, as we've spoken about. But yeah, he's on par for me at the moment. Probably hasn't quite hit his best form yet, but haven't been disappointed yet.
Oh, yeah, Roger here. Himmelberg centre-half forward, Redmond centre-half back, straightens us up. I don't know where this idea of Mason Redmond is a centre-half back comes from. I really don't. He doesn't play on an opponent.
No, he doesn't.
Like, for the 100 minutes, sure, you could probably go, oh, here's a clip of him on someone, yada, 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 yada. For 120 minutes, the bloke's loose. They're playing Jordan Ridley as their centre-half back at this point, which is really strange. But anyway, we're heading towards the 40-minute mark here, Hawks fans. So let's just talk about the Giants game. We are wanting tips, predictions, and you know what, mate? I'm calling it. We're winning this. And let me tell you, if we do, I'm just going to be monitoring the differences in the comment section. Let me tell you. Because, my goodness gracious me, I think we might be singing a different tune. Jacob, well, the good news is for you, my friend, they wouldn't trade him. So that's not how it works. Steph, I agree, but let's get Dimmer onto him and he can do what Nick Newman did a couple of weeks ago. Finn to shut down Green. He doesn't punish you enough by foot, I don't think. So what's the point of tagging a bloke that's going to give us 20 handballs? That's how it feels to pop Tom Mitchell. There you go.
I like it, Daz.
I like this. Hawks to respond. Hawks by 33. Newcomb, BOG, 35 plus and a goal. Well, if Will Day's not playing, I like Newcomb to get plenty of the footy, mate, which we love. Not at Giant Stadium. Jeez, we don't like Giant Stadium as fans, and I don't blame us. They're not a good hunting ground for us at all. Max Lynch comes in.
I like it.
Well, Chris, let me put it this way. It better be closer. If GWS are beating us by 14 goals, I might just join the comment side at this point. All right, mate, so let's go as we get predictions in. The Duke will shine. Love hearing that. Let's go to you, mate. Ins and outs. You won't be joining us, I don't think, for the opposition analysis pod tomorrow night. So, ins and outs for you, my friend, assuming that Will Day doesn't get off, if you will.
Yeah, so I'll go Max Lynch in for Ned Reeves. I think he needs to be rewarded for a good couple of weeks. He's the obvious choice, I think. And I'll go I think Sammy Butler deserves to come in. Who comes out for him? Potentially Finn if they're not going to tag. As you said before, don't really know what he's doing if he's not tagging. So if they're not going to tag Tom Green, yeah, maybe Butler will come in for him. In terms of a tip, I think I'm going to go with GWS, but in a close one, I'll go by 20 odd. Jay's gone with Bruce to kick 6. I sincerely hope so. I'd hope for that as well, because if someone's getting 45 touches, I hope we're not losing.
Mate, I'm with you. I mean, it could be worse. Noah Anderson had 38 touches, 10 tackles, and Stuart Dew didn't even give him a coach's vote. So what do we know? I think, honestly, Max Lynch comes in. I think that Ned Long comes in.
Yep.
And I think that Sam Butler comes in, and going out will be Ned Reeves, Will Day, and Finn McGuinness.
Okay.
That'll be my point. Tom, you're taking the mickey. Let's not do this, please. Come on. Mitchell got 54 and we lost. Yes.
We did.
Yes.
Yeah, we did. You're right.
Yeah. So, thanks, Brett. That's really got us in the optimistic mood that we're looking for here. My tip as well, I'm going Hawks by 10 points at this point in time. That could change as well. And Steph, who are the Bendigo Pioneers playing, for those that don't know, that's who Harley Reid plays for. So keep an eye out for Harley this week. 25 touches and 2 goals too last weekend. But Hawks fans, we are signing off right now. Thank you so much for joining us. We know it's a frustrating time, but let's be honest, this is as bad as it's going to get. It feels like that's as bad as we're going to get. We're going to get some bad weeks. Yeah, me too. But we this is who we are right now, but it's not who we are as a football club.
Yeah.
Okay, Hawks fans, I promise you. Fingers crossed we get the win. I'm looking forward to gather rounds. GWS won the coin toss, mate, and they're now the home team. Sure, and I thought Indians tossing the coin before a cricket match was dodgy, but that's the way that it works. But Hawks fans, enjoy the week. Let's get the Geelong game behind us and get around the group. Norwood Oval, Sunday. It'll be the Channel 7 game, so no need to break out the KO subscriptions or anything like that. You can check out talkinghawks.com for the latest news and articles, and on your podcasting platform. We're almost at 15,000 downloads already, which is genuinely bonkers. If you haven't followed us on Facebook or Twitter, go and do that, as well as subscribing on YouTube, and get one of your Hawks mates to do it as well, because the more people that join us here in the live streams, the better it becomes, which we love. Mitch, fantastic work tonight, mate, and thank you so much for the awesome thumbnail, mate. You are dominating in ways rarely seen on the Talking Hawks channel, mate. You are a genuine superstar, as are all you fans. Enjoy. We'll see you next time. Go the Hawks.